Thank you for listening to A Glimpse of the Kingdom. I'm Dr. David Pendergrass. In this podcast, I want to play for you a recording of a discipleship lesson I gave for the people at First Methodist Church, Houston. I hope you enjoy. Hey everybody, today's discipleship lesson, we want to look at another section from the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5 through 7. Today in particular, we're going to look at Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 through 30. Matthew 5, 27 through 30. And that's the section where Jesus talks about not committing adultery. If you remember so far, Matthew has set up Jesus as the Son of God. He set up his divine office and his genealogy, baptism, and temptation, and Jesus' authority over demons and healings as well, over sicknesses. And now he shifts gears in chapters 5 through 7 to focus on Jesus as teaching God the Father's true wisdom, his true teaching, and God's will, what he wants. And so the Sermon on the Mount focuses on what a disciple of Jesus should be, a citizen of the kingdom of God should be, and how a citizen of the kingdom of God should behave, what they should be and how they should behave. In verse 27, Jesus says, "You've heard that it said, 'Do not commit adultery.'" Now, his audience would have heard not commit adultery, of course, in the synagogue as they read the law each week. And this reference, of course, is from multiple places in the Old Testament. Exodus 20:14, Leviticus 20:10, and Deuteronomy 22:22. And it was commonplace amongst Judaism that you do not have adultery. Now, adultery occurs, let's be very clear, adultery occurs when a man or a woman, single, betrothed, or married, that's like saying single, engaged, or married, single, betrothed, or engaged, or married, has intercourse with someone of the opposite gender who is betrothed or married. So if a single person has intercourse with a married person or engaged person, then the engaged or married person has committed adultery. So that's what it is. But it's also important to understand that in Jesus' patriarchal society, where men ruled the coop, they ruled everything in general, the man's rights were always considered superior to the woman's rights. That's how it worked. The assumption was the man had the final full say in any decision. The same is true to the Gentiles in various degrees. The Greeks and Romans in general were patriarchal societies, and it was just widespread in the Mediterranean world that a man had the final say. This is certainly true when it comes to marriage and adultery. There was one text by a Latin author written around 160 AD, so written about 100 years roughly after Matthew was written. Listen to how this Latin author in Rome talks about adultery. Now, he's a Roman author, and he's writing, this is not the universal view, but this was a common view amongst the Romans. Listen to this. "If you should take your wife in adultery, you may with impunity put her to death without a trial." So if come to find out she's an adulteress, you can kill her. You can kill her without a trial. "But if you should commit adultery to the man, or indecency, she must not presume to lay a finger on you, nor does the law allow it." So, because of this patriarchal society, it's highly likely that when a man had an affair, he did not dishonor his wife or the other woman. He dishonored the other man who was part of the picture, the other woman's husband or fiancé. So that's very important, because what Jesus says here in this text will be toward men. Verse 28, "And I say to you," not "but I say to you," as if Jesus is negating the law. Jesus is almost certainly giving the true intent of the law, true interpretation and application of the law. Jesus says, "And I say to you that whoever," literally in the Greek, is looking upon a woman to desire her, has himself already committed adultery in his heart." So when a man is looking upon a woman to desire her, when he's staring a woman up and down to desire her sexually, he has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Now, this is shocking. It's not shocking to us. If you're a Christian, you've heard this before. But in the ancient world, and in many parts of the world today, this is shocking. And I'm going to tell you why. In every religion that I have known, I've taught world religions for years and years, and I've searched all their texts. And from Jews, Greeks, Romans, Indians, Egyptians, Chinese, I've searched them all. And it might exist, but it seems to be the case that two things are very important that their ethics would agree with. One is that people lust, particularly men. And secondly, the cause of their lust is the woman. Say it again. Typically, they don't talk much about women lusting. Typically, it's the man who lusts. Secondly, it's the woman's fault. The cause of the lust is the woman. We find this throughout multitude of texts and paintings and so forth throughout the ancient world and to the modern world to this day. This is why Jews of Jesus' era, before him, during, and after, to this day, many, they are so emphatic about covering up their hair. When you showed hair after the age of puberty, it was a sign of great indecency. To show hair meant you were either a prostitute, or you were a widow, or you were of marriageable age, as it were. You want to get married. But if you were past puberty, it usually meant you're either a widow or you're open for business. And so you covered your hair all the time. Hair was an object of lust in the ancient world. To this day, in the Mediterranean region, it's still covered for that reason. It's an object of lust. And the idea, and you can find this in Jewish text all over the place. The rabbis would implore and beg and command other Jewish brothers, please keep your virgin daughters basically locked up so that men would not be lured into sex with them. Lured into sex with them. The point being, women need to cover themselves in order not to cause men to be lured into sexual immorality. That's why they need to cover themselves up. So that as a man, I can control myself. Because I can't control myself if you show me this or that. Here, Jesus is saying something either unattested, that is completely unlike everybody else, or, which in my research, it is completely unattested. But maybe I missed something. Even if there's something out there, Jesus is in the smallest minority of religious and philosophical leaders in the world. And that is, he says, again, one more time, and I say to you that whoever is looking upon a woman to desire her has himself already committed adultery with her in his heart. Adultery in his heart. Jesus is saying, of course, that men and women are to blame for their lust. Now, again, if we go, well, of course they are, we miss the ancient context. And for many in the world today, millions in the world would disagree with this. This is a strong belief in Islam, that women need to cover themselves up because I cannot control myself, and it's your fault if I lust. It's your fault. Again, no one thought that a man was culpable for looking on a woman. They would have said, it must have been her fault. Now, think about that for a second. How many times have you said, well, she shouldn't have worn that. She was asking for it. Those are phrases, those are expressions you've heard about. Someone claims to be raped, and you say, well, what was she wearing? Well, she was begging for it. Those kind of ideas, that's what Jesus is countering here. That's completely what he's against. He's completely against that. So let me ask you, deep down inside, as it were, who's to blame for lust and for sexual act? Lust seems to be defined by Jesus as any act looking upon a person, here a man to a woman, that you desire them sexually. You desire to intercourse with them. You're objectifying them. That is to say, you're looking at them with an intent and desire to do it. We would say the word, you're obsessing about it. You're fantasizing about it. You're obsessing about it. And Jesus is saying, if you got that point, you're just like doing it. It's just like doing it. And secondly, of course, it's your fault for doing it. Now, is it... you think about American society at least, but it's all over the world. Well, certainly the western part of the world. Our TV is bombarded with TV shows. It's bombarded with TV shows of adultery. There's, many shows are nothing but a bunch of episodes of people having affairs. Are you desensitized? Are you desensitized to adultery? Are you desensitized? I hear Christians all the time say their favorite show is XYZ. And the primary premise of the show is all the characters in the show have sex with each other. They sleep around. And the drama that causes. Have you been desensitized? If so, what can you do to get back to an absolute profound disgust for even the hint of adultery in your life and anyone else's life as well? A hatred for it. What does it take for you to get in the folder of your mind, think of like a computer, the folder of your mind from, it's okay, or it's not that bad, or it's kind of bad, switch over to the folder that says, never in my lifetime will this ever occur. It's not okay to endorse it. It's not okay to watch shows and movies and read books that are all about this topic, because this is absolutely devastating. Not only is it immoral to what God commands, it is immoral, which should be enough for us to say, I'm not doing that. When the King of the universe says don't do it, we obey him. What else would we do to the King? We're not going to be rebellious. The second thing is, it's devastating. It's devastating. Adultery can ruin a marriage. I don't think it should ruin the marriage necessarily, but unrepentant adultery is certainly grounds for ending a relationship. It devastates it. It can take years for a spouse, years and years for them to heal fully. What about you? Jesus is saying not only do not commit adultery, but not even to lust after them, to want them in a way that objectifies them. He's saying if that's the case, you've already done it in your heart. So if you've been desensitized, get back on track. Confess that to God, remove yourself from those situations, and get back to the heart, the center of what Jesus is saying, what a citizen of the kingdom of God should be and how they should behave. And you're going to probably need help. If you have a real struggle with lust, you're going to need help for that. But before we're past Jesus' point and talking about help, let's look at what Jesus says the severity is. In verses 29 through 30, verse 29 and 30, Jesus says, if your right eye makes you stumble or sin, if your right eye causes you to sin or to stumble, tear it out and throw it away. It is profitable to destroy one of your members of your body, then have your whole body thrown into hell. If your right hand makes you stumble or to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It's profitable to lose one of your members than to have your whole body go into hell. Of course, three major points stand out. One, again, notice how Jesus is assuming that the one who looks on someone else is to blame. That's right. So if your right eye causes you, your right eye makes you, not if the woman makes you or if the man makes you, but if your eye does it and if your hand does it. So that's one. Secondly, the right eye, he says right eye, right hand, probably because in ancient culture, and much like today, it's typically considered the stronger part of you, because most people are right-handed and so forth. If you're left-handed, God bless your heart. Third, this type of commensurate punishment. That is, if you lust, take the eye out. If you steal, cut the hand. That's in ancient world, everyone understood that because that's just what you do. In many parts of the world, they still do it. Jesus' point is he's not trying to establish a new law code about chopping off your hands and getting your eyeball. It's hyperbole. Hyperbole means when you're exaggerative on purpose to prove a point. We say it's raining cats and dogs, which is really bizarre, but man, it's flooding outside when it's just raining hard. We use hyperbole, exaggeration. Jesus' point is this. It's better to lose part of yourself now at your discretion than to lose all of yourself then at Judgment Day at God's discretion. It's better to lose part of you, which causes sin now, at your discretion, than it is to lose all of you at punishment because of God's discretion. Around $100 billion is spent every year on pornography around the world. $100 billion. And in modern culture inundated with sexual images, do you consider lusting immoral? Men and women, of course. Do you? Does the idea that God will judge you and me and all of us based on what we do with our eyes and hands and with our minds, does that put, as it were, the healthy fear of God in you? If it doesn't, you have not, listen please, if it does not, you've not fully come to grips with the reality that you and I will face God and we will be accountable for what we've done. Judgment is coming. It's basic in the teaching of Jesus. And Jesus is saying, I care about you at judgment time. So much so, I'm giving you a heads up. You've been told, don't commit adultery. I'm telling you, one way to make sure you don't commit adultery, not even come close to the physical act, is not to do it in your heart either. It's not doing your heart either. If you don't do it in your heart, you won't be liable to judgment. Not on this issue. Now, let me say this quick word as we wrap up. If you're watching this video and you struggle with that. And the other day I was looking to, there was a study online, and they were trying to do a study of how bad pornography has affected men. And they want to do a study where they study people who are not addicted, who are not looked at it, and people who were addicted, or at least who looked at it on a somewhat regular basis. They couldn't find any male who did not regularly look at it. So they couldn't have a study. And that was after thousands of interviews. In other words, it permeates. It is the gargantuan elephant in the room at every single church body, and it's hardly ever spoken of. Let me say this to you. This last will wrap up. One is, I want to make sure that you hear the force of what Jesus the King is saying, how serious that is. Secondly, if you struggle with it, I'm almost certain, based on studies, that you suffer an enormous amount of shame and guilt because of it. Please don't let shame and guilt drive your decisions. Please don't let that drive your decisions. Reach out to someone else. Find a trusted friend. Find a trusted pastor, a trusted someone, a therapist, and say, a Christian therapist, and say, I need help. I need to walk along. I want someone to walk alongside me, and I want to be freed from this. You don't have to be enslaved by this anymore. You don't have to. There's good news. He can make all things new. So brother, sister, I encourage you, take this seriously. Reach out for help, and let's all be walking along beside each other. Not judging, not shaming, not guilting people, but walking alongside them as wounded people ourselves. We'll look at the own speck of our own eyeball first before we do that to anybody else. Love you. God bless you. See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to A Glimpse of the Kingdom. If you want to listen to more, go to my website, davidpendergrass.com, and look at one of the tabs that says podcast. If you click that, it'll take you straight to my podcast on iTunes, or you can search for it on iTunes if you want to, A Glimpse of the Kingdom. But also on my website, you'll see another way to get, if you're an Android listener on your phone or you just don't use Mac computers. Again, davidpendergrass.com, and click podcast. It'll take you exactly where you need to go, and you can subscribe from there and get this as often as you like, and also see my blogs and so forth. If you want to get me to come to your organization or church, otherwise to do some consulting, you need to go to davidpendergrassconsulting.com. davidpendergrassconsulting.com. You'll see the information there. If you want to reach out to me on Twitter, you can find me at Dr. D. Pendergrass, at Dr. D. Pendergrass.